Hi, I'm back. Another video today. So these are a little bit harder, but still I want you to do the same thing that you have been doing. So let's go over it step by step. So the first thing is we have to get rid of the parentheses. So our first step is we're going to distribute the 3, the -3. And again, -3 times 1 is -3. -3 times +6 is -18r equals 14 minus r. And again, I just told you what that property was. That property is the distributive property. The distributive property. So now I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to get my r's together. So I'm going to move this negative r over to the other side with positive r. And this is addition property of equality. So that gives me -3, -18 plus r, or 1r, it would be -17r equals 14. So now, again, I want to get r by itself. So I'm going to move this -3 over. I'm going to plus 3. So that's going to give me -17r equals 14 plus 3 is 17. This, when I add it to both sides, again, that's the addition property of equality. So I have -17r equals 17. So to move this over, I have to divide both sides, -17. And when you divide both sides, that's the division property of equality. So -17 divided by -17 is 1, or just r. And 17 divided by -17 is -1. So to check my answer here, I got to put in the -1 for the r. So let me grab this and bring it down so we can see what I'm doing. Everybody, you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to write this problem. -3, 1 plus 6. And then instead of r, I'm going to put -1. And instead of r, again, I'm going to put -1. So I'm going to take care of this parentheses here. First, I'm going to multiply this 6 times -1. So 6 times -1 is -6. And I'm going to take care of this negative and negative next to each other. We know what happens when that happens. You add it to 1. So I'm going to continue with this parentheses. -3, this is 1 minus 6 is -5. And 14 plus 1 is 15. All right, I did all of this left side and all of the right side. -3 times -5 is positive 15. 15 equals 15, so I know I'm right. I did it right because I got the same on both sides. All right, a lot more work checking and a lot more work with the properties. That's why I wanted to go over it before giving you this type of problem. So here's another one. Move it to the start, to the middle. And just like before, I'm going to distribute first. So 36v plus 36 minus 5 equals 1 plus 6w. That is the distributive property. Now, since both of these terms are on the same side of the equal mark, right? The equal mark's right here. I'm just going to combine these two terms because they're like terms. So 36v stays there. 36 minus 5 is 31. And on this side, I have 1 plus 6v. So again, let's just call it combining like terms. So 36 plus 31, I'll put that little tick there, equals 1 plus 6v. So I'm going to get my v's, my variables, to the left. So I'm going to move this 6v over to the other side by subtracting. And again, before I go any further, this is the subtraction property of equality. So I have 36v minus 6v is 30v. Then I still have this 31. And then over here, I just have the 1. So now I need to move this 31 over, right? My v's over, but now I got to move this 31 over. And again, that's the subtraction property of equality. So that gives me 30v on this side and negative 30v, negative 30 on this side. 1 minus 31 is negative 30. So now I'm going to divide by 30. Division property of equality. V equals negative 1. All right, so now I'm going to check it. I'm going to get this same problem here. I'm going to bring it down so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put the negative 1 in for V. Six times 6 negative 1 instead of V plus 6 minus 5 equals 1 plus 6 times negative 1. So I'm going to do the parentheses here. On this side of the equal, I'm going to do this parentheses. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. And then 6 times negative 1 is negative 6 over here. Right? Hopefully that made sense. I did this part, and then I did this part, and I got this. Now on this side, I'm going to still do in the parentheses. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. 1 minus 6 is negative 5. Right? So I did this and this. 6 times 0 is 0. And 0 minus 5 is minus 5. So I know I'm right. A lot of steps, and I'm probably going to give you similar problems to these for practice. So make sure you're paying attention so you know what I'm doing. All right, let's do this one. So in a lot of ways, it's very, very similar to the other one because my first step is to distribute. I'm distributing that 2. And then I'm going to combine like terms. Right, negative 4k plus 10k is 6k. I'm just combining like terms. And now I'm going to get my k's to the left, my variable to the left, and everything else to the right. So I'm going to move this negative 3k over to the left by adding. So that gives me 9k over here minus 12 equals negative 39. And this, of course, is the addition property of equality. Now I'm going to move this negative 12 over by adding. And again, that's the addition property of equality. I know you can't read my handwriting, but it's the same thing as we've been doing addition property of equality. So 9k equals, so negative 39 plus 12 is 27, negative 27. Then I'm going to divide by 9. K equals negative 3. And this division by dividing is the division property of equality. So once again, I got to check the work. I'm going to take that K equals negative 3, and I'm going to put it in for all of these K's. Negative 4 times negative 3 plus 2 times 5 times negative 3 minus 6 equals negative 3 times negative 3 minus 39. Now I'm going to do this parentheses and this parentheses, right? Because I got the equal mark here. I'm going to do this since it's here too. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Right, so I did this and got 12. I did this and got negative 15. And I did this and got positive 9. So I'm going to finish here. Negative 15 minus 6 is negative 21. 9 minus 39 is negative 30. So 2 times negative 21 is negative 42. So I did plus and then negative 42. I could have just done 12 minus 42. It's the same. So this is negative 30 equals negative 30. So I know I did it right. I had a lot of work for checking, but I want to see all of the checking. Again, this video I think has gone a little too long. So let me see one that's different. That's not different. That one's a little different. That one's very different. All right, let's do this one as the last one. So the first step, of course, with the parentheses is distributing. So we have 3x over 2 equals 8x minus 24. All we did was we distributed. Take what's outside the parentheses, distributive, and move it to the inside. Now we need to get rid of this fraction. This bottom number in this fraction is a 2, so we need to make it not a fraction. And again, we know how to make things not a fraction. We multiply everything by 2. So I'm going to multiply all of this by 2 and all of this by 2. That's the multiplication property of equality. It's important for you to understand that when you multiply this by 2, it cancels. And you're just left with 3x. That's why we do it, to get rid of the fraction. But when you multiply this side by 2, you have to multiply everything by 2. So it'll be 8x times 2, which is 16x, and negative 24 times 2, which is negative 48. I'm just checking and making sure my math is right. 16x. Yeah, it looks good. Multiplied by 2. So 3x equals 16x minus 48. All right, and then I'm going to get my variable to the left. So I'm going to move this negative 16x because that cancels, and that's property is the subtraction property. So I have negative 13x equals negative 48. Is it a fraction or did I do something wrong? That's funny. divide by negative 13. This is called the division property of equality. And x equals 48, negative 48 over negative 13, which is positive 48 over 13, which is a really strange number. 3 something. It thinks I keep on thinking I did something wrong, but let's pretend that I didn't do anything wrong. And if you can see something that I did wrong up here, I'll give you extra credit. I don't think I did. I just think it's a bad problem. And since it's a bad problem with the fraction as an answer, I'm not going to check it. You won't have to check anything with the fraction because that's too long. But then I would go back and check it. So make sure you know how to check your answer. Like this one, I would move the 5 over by subtracting 5 from both sides. That's the subtraction property. That would give me 3x minus 2 equals 5. I would multiply both sides by 2. That's the multiplication property. 3x equals 10. Like again, it's a fraction. And I would divide by 3. X equals 10 over 3. Then this is the division property. So if I was checking it, I would put the 10 over 3 in for that fraction. 5 plus 3 times 10 over 3 divided by 2 equals 10. I would do this first, and this here is 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 10 equals 10. So I checked it, and I did all the properties. That's what I want you to do on the worksheet. It's not going to be too many questions because this is a lot of steps, but you're going to have to do it. So get to work.